The first comment we're going to look at today, I think it showed up on a short that I did a while ago. And the comment says, I just saw this on my menu. What on earth is he doing and why? So I'm guessing that this individual saw one of my videos come up on their algorithm and just clicked on it. And so they decided to comment. And so my cooliana to that was, this person calls themselves little book reader yet acts like they have no idea what syntax is. Okay? See what I wrote here? Little book reader. So then they say, at Jason Matthew Glass, I know the definition, but I have never been in a position to acquire the level of your obvious expertise. I take my leave of your exalted presence. You're obviously high above this aging, humbled poet. Good day to you. I wish you well. And then they said, also, please note, it's little brook reader. The R makes a difference to me, if not to you. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, my bad. I did totally miss the R, okay? To err is human. Everyone makes mistakes. I am certainly no exception, ladies and gentlemen. So then my cooliana is, apologies. My own age has dimmed my eyes, and I totally missed the R. That one mistake totally nullifies the impact of my response to your interesting first comment. So I'm apologizing. There's no other volition here other than apologizing that I missed the R, and my smart-ass response back to them is totally nullified because I missed that. I made a mistake. And so I'm basically, with humility, cultivating humility, telling them I'm sorry. You know, my whole comment is just stricken from the record now because I made such a blunder. All right? Then I said, perhaps instead of what on earth is he doing and why, you could have said, I don't quite understand what's going on here. Mayhap I will do more research and check out his channel. I'm suggesting from a place of being a content creator since February of 2018, actually December of 2017, there's certain etiquette that you could follow that does not elicit certain responses, okay? And so if this individual, little brook reader, would have came on and said, I don't quite understand what's going on here, blah, 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 you know, instead of saying, what on earth is he doing? What the hell is he doing? You know, just coming on there, you don't even know a person. And so for me, and I know this is not the norm, I don't behave online in any way, shape, or form different than I would behave in person. Okay? So I go by that rule of thumb. And I said, thanks for the compliments and for stopping by. I don't see anything in my cooliana to them in this comment that is negative or anything like that. I offer suggestions. I'm not telling them what to do. I say perhaps instead of. So I'm not saying you should have done this. I'm offering a suggestion because they are on my channel, right? They've chosen to come here. So here you go. So this could have gone many different ways, but this is the way it went. Little brook reader then says, so the ball again is in my court. So the ball is again in my court. Excuse me if I discontinue play. I have never fit into a ready-made script. Thank you all the same. And then my response to that is, I get it. Taking accountability is rough. If you don't learn to do it whilst young, you certainly won't do it when you're old. Thank you for choosing to leave a comment here of your own volition. Basically telling them you chose to be here. And of course, they left. Next comment comes from longtime viewer Don John Swaggart. And they say, yes, I am aware of the so-called prefix PRO coming from pra, pro, pre. Before, of course, I knew it would cause your scanner, what's the sound, the alarm. Well, I would have written better is I said. I would have written better is I said. Damn. If you guys can make sense of that, go ahead. I'm going to keep going here. I take much from the work An Etymology of Latin and Greek by Charles S. Halsey, 1889. Now that's wonderful. You know, going back, I love old books and old etymology. I love doing that stuff. It's fun for me. However, when I make videos, I don't use obscure sources. And by obscure, I mean I would consider Etymology of Latin and Greek by Charles S. Halsey, 1889, obscure, because not everyone can readily get it. Yeah, of course, you can go onto a website and type in those words and order it. Of course you can. But why? Why would you do that? Right? When you can just go to ÉTI online, go to an etymology dictionary, go to Google, something that's available to everyone. Rule 1, rule equal. That's what I do on my channel. That's why I do it that way. I try to make it so that everything is available to everyone, and I don't need to go to some special obscure dusty library and take my meanings from there where no one else can get to it, or they have a hard time getting to it. You see what I'm saying? That's the way I do things, and that's, I think it's the best way to do things if you're going to maintain rule 1, rule equal. I have some insight showing me that the use of pro and professor is not a prepositional instrument, but is instead only adding injection, like in the terms primus or princeps or principles. Actually, Don John Swaggart, I've just made a video, which by the time you see this has probably been published, about the prefix pro. I have made videos in the past about pro, but I felt it was time to make another one to address what you're talking about here. Suffice it to say here that PRO is indeed a particle of negation, and when credentialed as a particle by itself, there is overwhelming evidence that it is a negative condition of state. And in the video that I've published or will publish about PRO, you will see this. I'm curious if some fixtures can be used in their physical spatial meaning rather than the necessary restrictive here and now, time-breaking meaning of the past before, like blah, 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 blah. Well, in correct sentence structure, communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, the rule of thumb is 1 and 1 is 1. One word, one meaning, so on and so forth across the board. So the answer to that, to satisfy your curiosity, Don John Swaggart, the answer is no. It's one word, one meaning. It's credentialed this way, you give closure to it, end of story. Fiction navigates on definitions. DE means no, finite, limit. ION means contract, no finite contract. You can have more than one meaning per word. But here in the domain of fact, 1 and 1 is 1. One word, one meaning, one congruency, one function. Ad nauseum, which I've said literally thousands of times in over 1,000 videos on this channel. Excuse me in some of my comments as I am using the excuse that you previously mentioned about laziness. Well, there is no excuse for that actually, Don John. I know you've been here for quite a while and still asking these beginner questions because you haven't buckled down and actually committed to learning this, which I hope you do someday. But make no mistake, man, I appreciate your comments. I'm honored that you've taken the time to come here and ask these grammar questions. I count myself as honored by your presence here, and I mean that. It's always a pleasure to be corrected. One could consider correctness to be truly divine. I have much respect for your focal point being the grammar, for correctness folds perfectly with a focal point looking at the truth of a matter with the simple and plain, most especially in that proper communication, syntax, grammar, etc. is absolutely necessary in expressing that very plain and simple truth. Question mark. Wow. I don't get that at all. I don't understand why there would be a question mark there after that huge, massive sentence. So yes, I see how it brings a metaphysical connection, but I was referring in my comment to the more simple-minded brethren who, well, perhaps they're not simple-minded, perhaps they perceive the metaphysical connection, and they have a focus on that perspective. And they have a focus on that perspective. Proofreading and editing is tough. Well, I'm glad I did mention that. I don't know much in that referred to comment. Finally, I wonder if you could address the topic of spaces that are involved with the period, space, quotation, colon, quotation. John Doe Smith versus John Doe Smith. Well, okay, I'll bite. So you have something here, John Doe Smith, which there's no full stop at the end, which you would need a full stop after Smith, after the H in Smith, for sure. Otherwise, it's just two pronouns. John Doe is a pronoun and Smith is a pronoun. If you don't have a full stop here. If you have a full stop, then it is correct sentence structure. If there were a full stop after the H in Smith, this first line would read, for the John-Doe of the Smith, period. Now we look at the next one, versus. Let's take that out, okay, with the balance of the honor and the grace. We have colon John-Doe, and then no space, colon, no space, Smith. So in communication, in giving closure on communication, the way most of us cognize sentences and words is you will see spaces in between each element. And if you have a piece of punctuation and no space, if that punctuation is credentialed, then it usually means it has some sort of special function, usually with a space after it, unless it's a special character like an apostrophe, which, again, we give closure to as possessive. Okay? In this, I don't know what function this is serving because there is no space before it or after it. So it's just another character, like a D, an O, an E, a colon, an S, an S. So this would be syntaxed as a pronoun because there's no spacing here. I don't know what the function of this colon is. There's no closure to it. I have no previous closure to it or any other reference to why someone would do that. In the first name, I do have closure as to the spacing of the colons. And Don John Swaggart, I have a video from about 7 years ago giving full closure on the colon. I would recommend you go to my YouTube channel, go to the channel itself, the main page, click on my name and it says View Channel, hit that, go to my channel, and then go to the search bar that searches only my channel and type in full-colon. And a video will come up that will give you closure on what you're talking about here. Now, there are lots of other videos having to do with the full correct name on my channel that also give you closure. So it just takes a little bit of work on your part. But I hope what I just explained there does help you. I'm having trouble comprehending what appears in my lowly knowledge to be a break in the continuum in the first instance. No, that is not correct. As I said, spacing helps with the syntax of the comprehension of what's being conveyed. Because otherwise, if you don't have spaces in between even your fiction babble words, they're just running on, and how do you know what's a word and what isn't? Just the same with how do I know what type of hieroglyphic this is, but in correct sentence structure, there is given closure as to the spacing of the colons. If a sentence starts, no, actually, I'm not going to go into that, Don John, because you can just go back and watch the video yourself. All right? I think I've spoon-fed you enough here. Next comment comes from Shamanic something or other. They say, omitting is a form of lying. There is proof that your intention was trying to trigger her. Oh, they're talking about the cult follower videos that I did earlier. I just messaged her and she showed me a picture of your story. Not cool, dude. That's funny. What they're referring to is me doing a grammar audit of that individual's Instagram public profile. It's not cool to point out someone making mistakes in correct sentence structure. I don't believe in any of your guys' grammar BS. I believe in laws of the universe. And justice falls under natural law and law of correspondence, meaning that what you do on others shall be done unto you. Really? Okay. Well, I'm more than open to your correcting my grammar, Shamanik. Feel free. Go ahead. Now, having said that, with the balance of the honor and the grace and cultivating humility, I did make a public notice that I was no longer going to audit any Russell J. Gould cult follower because I don't want to trigger them or have that type of extreme negative reaction like that individual that you're referring to had. Like, that was extreme. Like, they went off the deep end. They got cooked. I mean, they went so far as, they were calling me every name in the book with a mouth that I can't imagine they kissed their mother with that mouth, talking about this, that, and the third, talking about how, saying that I don't know how to talk to women or something like that, and that, whatever. And it's funny because they're saying I don't know how to talk to women, but yet, was I talking to a woman? Because they certainly weren't acting like one. Anyways, you got to practice what you preach, right? Which is what I'm struggling to do right now. So with the cultivation of humility, I am no longer going to grammar audit Russell J. Gould's cult followers because they obviously don't have the capacity to handle it. Now, in relation to the previous comment and in relation to that Russell J. Gould follower that got triggered with the potty mouth, who actually brought up my daughter who died in 1993, what type of individual does that? Well, in relation to that, MCCOS says, I was in the chat when RJG team kicked her off the channel and blocked her. So even Russell J. Gould's people thought that she was a little too off the edge, and they kicked her out and blocked her. I tried to explain in the disconnect between the correct sentence structure and the correct sentence structure performance, gobbledygook, and where to get the correct information about 6 months ago. I'm surprised it took her this long to have an example made of herself for the sake of the correctness. Shake my head. Keep on doing what you're doing, bro. I may not possess the ability to obtain full closure on the grammar, but this is still my favorite channel. Well, thank you very much for those kind words. I don't believe you when you say you don't possess the ability to obtain full closure. And the reason I say that is because you haven't contacted me at jasonmatthewg17@gmail.com and applied for a workshop or even had a brief consultation with me. Feel free to contact me. Please use your full correct name. I'll set up a 10 to 15 minute video consultation. You could ask me whatever you want to ask me, and we'll find out if you do or don't have the ability to do this. Bro, I got 9 years of experience teaching hundreds of folks all over the earth. We'll be able to ascertain very quickly where you're at with it. Thank you for the comment. John Wick says, when signing your name on a legal document, what does the first colon stand for, and why is the colon added before your first name? I am passionate on wanting to learn all I can about syntax grammar. All right. So John Wick, if you are passionate about learning syntax grammar, there are over 1,000 videos here, one of which will give you closure on autographing your name on a document, contract, postal vessel, court venue. I'm currently on parole for a crime I never did but got completely railroaded at the theater when forced to act for those criminals. This was before I started down the rabbit hole. Criminalized when he's committed no crime. The other day I went to buy a Wawa coffee and the foreign henchman gang maggots kidnapped me and stuffed me in a cage for obstructing their crimes against me. I have to act in their theater. My issue, parole wants to put a wireless leash bracelet on they want to write the parole. As of the recording of this video, it is January 28th, so this John Wick has already had his day in the foreign vessel and dry dock, so I hope it went well for him. Next comment comes from all over Florida, and they say, makes zero of the sense to me, but it's interesting as hell, and for some reason, it resonates with me beyond my current understanding. Oh, and that's on a syntax video. Well, all over Florida, keep coming back. And contact me at the email address below your screen here, and use your full correct name and apply for workshops if if it resonates with you that strong. Go ahead and apply for workshops. Next comment comes from Scott Tyler Fred, and they say :space Zachariah -Lynn :space Gilbert. Is that you? Oh, they're commenting on the viewer comments video I did on Zack Attack. Clarity and closure of the viewers' comments 111. :space. Okay, with the balance of the honor and the grace, we'll forgive that mistake. But is that individual's correct name, I wonder? Because Zack Attack, for all his yapping, refused to share his full correct name, hiding behind a nom de guerre, which is par for the course for these internet warrior trolls that give me so much great material and content. Oh my! And here we have a comment from the triggered RJG cult follower, or former cult follower, still triggered, but former cult follower, commenting on the Zack Attack video, and they say, LOL, this was actually a really funny video thanks to Zack. It seems he either knows how to squeeze the TITTIES correctly, or actually communicate with women without the intent to get a prize out of them or trigger them emotionally, like sick narcissist, or I guess in this case, like a glowy would. Maybe the Zack didn't show because you put some of your Gmail format in italics in cursive. That's the language of the dead, like I said before. It seems you are just retarded. Retarded as in slow and delayed with the rotten smell of rodents. Yes, that's a pretty tame comment coming from this individual. That's pretty funny, though. I think it's great how these people, even though, how they're so completely cooked, but yet they keep watching and keep commenting. So, yeah, keep coming back. Another one from John Wick, and they say, I'm definitely interested in wanting to learn this information for sure, especially because now I got to relearn the grammar again, this time properly at 53 years old. Well, I got a year on you there, John Wick. I'll be 54 this March. Next comment comes from Nina the Mystic, and they say, how did he die? Meaning, :David-WYNN: Miller. Nothing on Goggle. I think they mean Google. Am doing a show on his material and need to find more facts. Yeah, I'll share with you an interesting story there, Nina the Mystic. David passed away in the summer solstice of 2018. And I will say that I had been studying quantum grammar since the summer before, the summer of 2017. And I had been in contact with David-WYNN Miller up until the summer solstice of 2018 when he did pass. And I was also in contact with Russell J. Gould, and I was also in contact with, and I doubt many people now know this name, Mark _K Christopher. Okay? And there were a lot of discussions going around, especially in Mark Christopher circles, about David. Now, David was in contact with Mark and working with him. He was not working with Russell J. Gould at that time. He was working with Mark Christopher for whatever reason. And it's very interesting because Mark didn't know the first thing about this grammar. In any case, here's the thing. For a year after David passed away, I and a lot of my friends and colleagues were trying to find any data on the internet regarding David's obituary. There was no mention of his death. His Wikipedia page stayed the same for a year after his death. There was no mention of his death anywhere. And then, lo and behold, about a year and a day after he allegedly died, all of a sudden, David's Wikipedia page now acknowledged that David passed away. Also, before that time, there was no record, no public internet record of David Wynn Miller or Russell J. Gould being in any foreign vessel and dry dock, i.e. district court, anything. There was no public records of this. I couldn't find it. And none of my colleagues could find any data on that. A year and a day or so after David's death, all of a sudden, all these court cases started showing up in Google searches on the internet with Russell and David and other folks being in court. Records of it. Like literally dozens of cases from like 2010, 11, 12, around that time. So it's just very interesting. Thought I'd share that with you. Final comment comes from Pulcha, and they say, for this, Jason's knowledge of the claim is with the sensation of the clarity with discovery of the playlist by the claimant, Pablo. Now, I know that Pablo or Pulcha is new to this. However, I am going to do a quick audit of their sentence here. So hopefully it helps them along on their journey. First of all, Jason's. If they mean me, I am a live life claimant. I am a living, breathing creature. Why would they all cap my name? All right. The other thing. For Jason's knowledge of the claim, it appears as though I am the cause. My knowledge is the cause of their sentence. How can someone make a claim for me if, number one, they're not me, or number two, I have not given them consent? I have not given Pulcha consent to make a claim for me. So this is incorrect right off the bat, right from the get-go. Is with the sensation of the clarity with the discovery, DIS, particle of negation, of the playlist. The concatenation of the positionals of the sequencing is not correct because you would not precede by the claimant with of the playlist. You would have to have a possessive in between of the playlist and by the claimant. So an easy way to fix that would be of the play with the list by the claimant, Pablo. So there are other issues in this sentence, but I'm just pointing this stuff out real quick. Hopefully Pablo will do what they need to do if they're serious about learning this grammar and start doing some workshops and get the ball rolling. Thank you for the comment, Pablo. I hope you heed what I say, and I hope everyone else enjoyed this comments video. I've been getting lots and lots of comments, so I'm going to be making lots and lots of these videos, and I appreciate you out there, you folks out there who have the cojones to leave comments. Thank you. Que sera, sera.